Greetings, everyone. Nate the Nerdarchy here from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. And we are going to be doing some monster mashing. With me, I have a nerd.
I'm Kienata, and tonight we're going to deal with pod people. Mostly because we don't know what else to call them. Because they live in pods.
Well, I started off with the island world building stream Sunday with the thought, I want an aquatic elf that's not. All right, it says we're connected.
Awesome.
Oh, you already have calls to grow the beard back.
The beard, the hair, it comes and goes. I grow it out, I chop it off, I grow it out, I chop it off. Just it's a cycle. Is it functional?
You know what would probably help is if I wasn't watching the stream in HD quality all over the place. That would probably help.
Yeah, I'd really recommend maybe turn that down a notch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So pod people. My beard is gone. It's okay that my beard is gone. I still there's face left afterwards. So, pod people, aquatic elves. And the reason we're calling them pod people is because they grow these huge living kelp-like bubbles.
Well, also, I was thinking, there's certain types of plants that make a gas bubble and cover it with their plant cells. So basically, they make a plant cell that then puffs up. And also, was thinking about the shark eggs that look kind of, what are they, called mermaid purses.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about having, kind of like a combo shark egg. They grow in these things, and they're actually part of these like kelp structures.
Mm.
So you get this kind of basically like living, floating root mass out in the sea, and it's a calmer sea because of the way it's constructed around the area. But in general, anywhere you had them, I would say they float on these like kelp reed mats that grow and change and alter themselves. And so you want them gassy pod people. We don't want them gassy pod people, but they happen to be gassy pod people. So I'm thinking that that's kind of the inspiration for this is why I call them pod people, as like they're aquatic elves, but they're not. They're pod people, but they're not, because they're like a living, breathing species of plant person.
Exactly.
And I don't think we really have any plant people in 5e yet.
Well, we have fungus people, but calling fungus people plant people isn't actually accurate.
It's highly offensive.
It's highly offensive, and if I were a fungus person, I would be completely up in arms over it. So the concept here is essentially we have an aquatic elf. We're setting our aquatic elf in a full mutation process so that he's coming out, or she is coming out, a plant elf, aquatic elf. And they live on these like flotilla floating island things, based on this crazy kelp that they're able to grow, which we can come up with a better name for it. That's not a super important detail, but essentially they live on these floating islands. Yes. And we have to come up with some details for our pod people so they're a little more fleshed out.
Yeah, so I've got a list here of things that I really need to know before I can set the stage for what they could actually be. Are they monsters? Are they humanoids, like a bugbear that hasn't been made a PC race until Volo's Guide, I believe? There's a whole bunch of monsters races in Volo's Guide. So let's just say they could later be, or let's try and make them a race, and then also they could have higher level groups of these pod people that are not necessarily a PCable race. So if we want to try and go with the race traits for them, I feel like they'd be pretty hardy, even though they kind of have that elfin look to them. So they'd be, just because of their makeup, almost as if because they're plant people, they can deal with a lot of situations and more readily and more robustly than a more mammalian creature could, or a lizard person. Lizard people.
Okay, so basic basic concepts of what these people are going to be like. How do they feed themselves? What's their sleep like? What are the things that they want in day-to-day life?
Yeah, general stuff like that.
Okay.
So I want to start with a little bit of crunch. I like the racial traits.
Crunch?
Yeah.
Crunch.
Crunchiness. So we've got the racial traits. I think they're pretty hardy. I think their natural plant anatomy makes that so.
Barky.
Not so much. They might have some bark.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I think just, if you think about, you have to take an axe. I don't want to get into the conversations about what's easier to chop up with an axe.
No, and I don't
people or plants.
Well,
but you know what I'm saying? They're tougher.
Yes, they live underwater. That is a really dark conversation, by the way. They live underwater, and we already have a reason to make these guys tougher. So they live underwater, and one of the features that we were talking about, something we expressly wanted to get into the final build, is their ability to dive to really, really deep water. If they're able to dive in really deep water, they would have to be incredibly tough to be able to handle that kind of pressure and not have any of the side effects of being in super deep water, most pronounced of which is being crushed till you're the size of a tin can. So
yeah, just smashed into little tiny bits. So there is an actual race that can handle that kind of stuff right now, and that is the Tritons. So I'm gonna go and snag in my trusty D&D Beyond. I'm gonna go
trusty.
I'm gonna go snag the Tritons' abilities.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, Ben Murchison. Ben said bioluminescent root structures which make up a tunnel network and a beaver's lodge type of chambers. I don't think we've really figured out the ins and outs of how you get inside these structures. I assumed it was like a kind of a diving bell thing where they have an atmosphere inside them, and then that atmosphere is essentially just by pressure keeping water out. So
we're going to rename this Depths Diver. So adapted to even the most extreme ocean depths, you have resistance to cold damage.
They kind of live in a really nice bordering on tropical area.
Yeah, they wouldn't have cold damage resistance. I agree.
They would need a way to deal. I mean, regardless of where you are, even in the tropics, the super deep water is still very cold.
Yeah.
I mean, like really, really cold.
I'm going to say rather than adapt it, I'm going to say your nature makes you resistant. How about that?
Okay.
To extreme ocean depths, and you ignore any of the drawbacks caused by a deep underwater environment.
Oh, there you go. Just a catch-all.
Yeah, just
That's
we can make it fluffier later, but pretty much it's going to be because they're water plants. They can handle all different kinds of things that a normal person wouldn't be able to.
Sage McKenzie asks, question, how large are these creatures?
I'd say they're shorter than a human, taller than a dwarf.
What? I'd say they're exactly 5 feet tall, all of them.
Oh yeah, they're all siblings and they're all 5 feet tall.
Hey, comrade. Okay, so
I thought that was a pretty good range. A little too much of a range.
It's if we look at the height charts for them, so they're like between 4 and 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Like.
All right, so let's make it 4.5.
4.5
to 5.5.
Okay, that's a good range. You could still be roughly the size of most of the people around you.
Yeah.
That's one thing that never gets addressed, is there's all this proof that the further back you go in history, the shorter we were because we didn't have as much access to food or because we weren't as well fed or whatever. And nobody ever talks about that in a D&D setting. Like everybody's like, yes, my human barbarian is 6'2", 300 pounds of pure muscle.
That's because he ate bears every day.
Who is feeding him? Yeah, exactly. Who raised you?
Before he had teeth, they shoved pieces of bear fat in his mouth.
Exactly, something. We've already got Bards in the Basement said I'd play a pod person druid Circle of Spores.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be fantastic. Yes. So I'm going to say Wade is like normal for like a little sturdier than an elf, but still not full elven elegance, but more. You could tell it's a fey creature. Do you know what I mean?
How? So that's like their build.
Yeah.
Their physical weight may not necessarily be the same if they're plant based.
They're mostly plant.
They could be significantly heavier.
Let's go 140. How about that? On average.
We're doing it.
Average.
I weigh much more than that, and I'm only 5'11", so.
Well, lose 4 or 5 more inches, then we can talk.
Be good to go.
And don't get wider this way, and we can talk.
So live build, 140 pounds.
I think we're going to try and PC these guys, so let's get rid of this question about whether or not we're PCing them. There we go. Yeah.
You are going to be able to be one of these people.
Yeah. So what are we saying for speed? They can deal with the depths, and I guess they would naturally natively have a swim speed. But it's not like they've got flippers.
Webbed fingers?
Maybe they've got webbed fingers, or maybe they have... Maybe it's magic. It's
well,
magic.
you could give them... What if, instead of messing with their hands, what if you gave them like a very slight webbing in their fingers, but you gave them really long toes?
How about... No, instead of that, what if they had side fins on their legs?
Oh, extendable ones?
And they would like fan out when you kick your leg. So they would look almost like a garment or something on the sides of their legs. Like, you know, those the sportswear that has the line. It's kind of like that, but just a little bit frillier. And then when they get into the water and start doing their whatever swim.
This thing?
The dolphin.
Okay. They swim. They all swim like a dolphin.
Yes.
Now you have that. If you need RP notes for this, you know you swim like a dolphin. No backstroke.
So they can walk and they can swim.
Russet Man asks a question that makes me ask a question. Russet Man said, would they not be adapted to walking on land very well, granting them a 25-foot movement speed? My question, in addition to his comment, is if they're naturally able to spend hours underwater, they're able to have an incredibly good movement speed, they have fins developed for it, are they going to be given a disadvantage in the above ground environment in some form?
No, I say nay, because there's a whole bunch of stuff happening on top of where they live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say no. They don't have disadvantages. You know, no one wants to play stuff like that. And if they do, you can play like something else. That's not. I don't know what to say. I don't like making like, oh, here's a sea creature that everyone's going to try and play, and then you can't take them on regular adventures.
Well, what if we made it a more flavor based? I see there. Brian Smith said, "How would these guys do outside their water environment?" So yeah. We want to make them a PC race. If we make them a PC race, then ultimately we want to put as few restrictions as possible on them, because you just end up making life hard for your player and your GM. But what if you put like a fluff restriction on it and said,
like they drink lots of water?
Have to stay hydrated.
It's important.
What if you said something like they suffer, what is it called when you're like dizzy? Oh man. It's that sense of dizziness.
Vertigo?
Vertigo. What if they don't spend time in an aquatic environment, like once a month, they start to suffer from vertigo?
I think once a month's not enough.
Well, you could do it more often if you wanted to, but generally speaking, once a month is enough to dodge any adventure. You know what I mean? So that it can be like this fluff-based thing, so that maybe they'll be caught with their pants down, but it'd be a rare event. That way it's not as heavy-handed as saying, if you're out of water, which you will be 99.9% of the time.
I think it would a fluff. I think a fluff thing that I could go for would be just that they have to drink a lot of water. Like basically, if you were to do the actual like water rations, or for some reason you put these things in dark sun or something like that, or they're in a desert area where there's not ample supplies of water, they've got to be like, you will give me that water, or I will take it from your body.
Okay.
Fine. It says we're reconnected.
It is. Oh, Axnar is here. Hello, Axnar. Are we live, guys? We are having a monumental battle tonight.
That was supposed to be bad stream time. Oh, thanks. Now you're gonna do that.
Yay, we're back. Yay! Sorry.
It's happening today. I don't know why. All I did differently was let Dave touch the stuff.
You and Dave can trade blows.
I'm blaming Dave. Well, he did a test stream earlier, and I tried to reverse everything to make it not a test stream, and I'm just not sure if I got everything. But I'm just gonna say that it's just goofy stream stuff tonight, so we'll just soldier on. Slats
said Twitch went down earlier. That's interesting.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Maybe we'll just piggyback on that. It's Twitch's fault.
Axanar said it was him, so.
Oh, you showed up and you messed everything up. I see.
Cut it out, Axanar. Stop messing things up, man.
Saboteur. All right. Going back to the stats, what do you think about con and dex? Because I don't want people thinking these are like oafy things. But I don't want to give them a +2 con and then give them a +1 dex unless we don't give them a lot of abilities.
It depends. It really depends on what perspective you want to take on them. In order to move quickly in water, you typically need a lot of physical strength in order to move through the water with any amount of speed. However,
they have a swim speed.
Right.
So they have like some kind of ability to just naturally swim. So they don't necessarily need to worry about muscling them way through it.
Well, it could also be a dexterous thing where they're moving the very flowing fluid movements. So yeah, exactly. So if they're using flowing fluid movements, like what is that, the Macarena? What am I doing? Then you could also explain that through dexterity. So you really could go in either the dexterity or the strength direction. Right. And then the constitution is just, what do we have left? You know what I mean? Like what do we have left for points?
Well,
+5 to both stats. It's canon.
It's canon. Yeah, that's not broken at all.
And my next character, no,
it's gonna be this. Yeah. So let's put it at 1-1 for right now. If we don't put enough abilities on, I think their social awkwardness would add something to. Basically, you know how like some things are harder to play, like a tiefling. Oh, you kind of have it like a negative vibe from them.
Yeah, the RP notes on this character will be extensive. Don't dive right in thinking you could play one of these immediately, because they come from a very weird society.
Yeah. So how about we get into that, and then that'll kind of inform us. I think it might inspire us for the other things.
Okay. All right. So
going on to, we got, let's say, social interaction, or do we want to do, let's do Fey rules.
I think they all reflect on each other. I think this is the thing that we want to open the blossoming flower and let chat dive in, because this is the weirdness that more brains are going to be really valuable for.
Okay, well, first let's start off with the idea. They've got a strange idea of ownership, laws of hosts, and guests. So they've got this kind of Fey quirkiness to them. And one of the things is they naturally, throughout the ages, have dived into the water and retrieved what other people have lost. So the idea of ownership for them is pretty much they find it's theirs. If they can hold it in their hand, if they can collect it, if they can possess it.
This is mine.
Yep, this is mine.
I'm holding it, so it's mine.
Yeah. So that is something that comes up. Well, that happens with everything. So when they fish you out of the sea, you're theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
I fished Kienata out of the sea.
yes,
He's now in my possession.
exactly.
And for a Fae, that's like, they already know that stuff. You know, they're used to gaining people as some kind of contract pact slave all the time.
And the extremism that we may or may not have had a little secret conversation about, are we going to go into the full extremism, or do we want to just run that by everyone here and see what they think?
Let's see what everybody thinks.
Okay. So this goes back to Nate's original idea from the world building stream, where we were talking about how they have guests. Basically, two ships pass in the night, except they get into a gunfight as they're passing and blow each other up. Sailor gets knocked overboard and he starts to sink to the bottom. If one of these people were to find him, they'd be like, oh, this is mine now. Look, I have a human. And they'd take the human back and put him in one of their little diving bell houses. And they'd be like, human, what do you need? The extremism version of this is that one of the quirks, I can't believe we're calling kidnapping quirky, but bear with me.
Hey, they would have died at sea, so it's really...
Yeah, I saved your life.
I saved your life.
You now.
Yeah.
So one of the quirks of this would be that they will go to extremes in order to give this person anything they want. So if this person is trapped and being kept by them as a quote guest, they would go, like, say the guy is like, well, I'd really like some ham and eggs. There's clearly no ham and eggs out here. So maybe they would go to like the closest human village and ask for things that they think they need. And they may even go to extremes in order to get these things, because they don't want their human to want to leave. They want the human to stay.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's slates. It is definitely, you know, you're taking good care of the things you own, rather than, you know, they're enslaved and you don't really give a damn about them.
Exactly. Yeah. And James Leslie said, go full extreme to create more conflict, which, you know me, I'm all about brewing the conflict. Special guests get some sort of pass so they aren't put in a zoo. So those guests that come of their own volition, their own accord, those people clearly are not something that you can own. They're owned by someone else. That's how they got there. That's how they're able to, you know, act under their own. But if you find something in the ocean, that belongs to you, which leads to the next thing, which we're not going to go too far down this road because this is kind of world building territory. But we were wondering what we could do to make them have things that they'd want to trade. Like, what would they want? Well, they have tons of things that they would want to trade and tons of things they would want to have, but maybe for no real reason. Like, hey, that's a really cool barrel on the deck of your ship. I have a thing I want to do with the barrel. I want one of those. And they'd be like, give the seaman the barrel. No, get the barrel and give it to him. What? You'll give us what for it? Oh, nope, that's fine. Give him the barrel. Nope, don't care. Tip the grog over. Give him the barrel. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't want the stuff inside of it. I just want the barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would see this... what is it? Brian Smith. Would they consider themselves owned by their parents? And Axoneer also says, is the mentality going to be problematic in an adventuring party? It could result in a Kender kind of situation. Oh no. I always want to avoid the Kender kind of situations.
But there's tons of playable races that are monsters in the monster manual that have that mentality. A Thrycreen, everybody else is food. A lizard man, for like straight out of the monster manual, legit, they're probably like, dude, you got injured really bad. I'm gonna lick the blood off because I could use a nice snack. Like, they really do see everyone as food, and there's no being uncouth about it. They just want to eat you. So this would definitely be another one of those extreme scenarios. You dropped your sword. Now it's mine, Nate.
Well, I would say it wasn't... It's not like they see you drop something and they pick it up and now it's theirs. I would say it's more like if they consider it found by them, it's theirs. Basically, if they can't identify ownership, then it's free to take. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a nuance there that makes them a little less annoying, I think. And also like a little bit more legitimate. Like, hey, if you're lost at sea, you're whoever's found you. You know what I mean? Like you're beholden to their desires. And if you're an object, you don't have a say in it. You're just picked up and stuck in a pocket.
Exactly. Jonathan Snow, these guys are going to make hilarious rogues. Well, yeah, exactly. Like if you and I, John, are walking through little trade area in a small village, and there's like the stalls on either side, and there's a stall that's just unattended for a minute, or maybe there's nobody around, and I walk up to it and I start picking things up and sticking them in my backpack. Now it's your problem. Like you're gonna have to run up and be like, no, put it down. We can't just take those. Nope, it's not ours. No, you can't have it. Like it would create some interesting scenarios. The things I always hated about Kender were they were still sneaky about it. They were like kleptomaniacs.
Yeah, like I want to steal everything and try
people
and
were like
hide
it's cute, and I'm like, I want to cut his hands off. I absolutely
steal again.
Yeah. I absolutely do not want the Kender in my party. I don't care how good he is with a sling staff. And yeah, James Leslie says, I expect they would have riches from sunken ships that they can barter with, fish, sea jewels like pearls, coral, and their super culp. Exactly. They have tons of stuff to barter away. The question was, what do they want? If we make them a really kind of alien society, it gets a little bit more interesting. There's lots of things they want that are nonsensible, like weird things, a cannonball because it's heavy. Although no gunpowder, but still.
An iron rod. Yeah, so some of the things like laws of hosts and guests, they kind of have that. They follow that. So even though you're a possession of theirs, you're also still a guest in a way.
Mm-hmm. They care about you. Yeah. They're not malicious or horrible.
And they'll pretty much trade for things for you that you desire, but you're there and you're not allowed to leave.
Right.
So it's one of those things where we're saying like, hey, I was being taken care of, but it was like kind of like being a pet. And one thing I wanted that I couldn't have was I wanted to leave. So I ran away.
If an easier way to maybe make this association would to give it some context. If you got a dog from the pound and the dog was just sad all the time and always trying to get out of your house, you'd probably do things to make it more comfortable. You wouldn't be like, I should just open the door and let him go. You wouldn't do that.
He wants to be free.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the same mentality for them. That silly human wants to leave, but he's not leaving.
Yeah, I'll get him whatever he'd like. That's within my power, but he can't leave.
I like this association. Axanar said, so it's Beauty and the Beast. Exactly. Hey, Paul. What's up, bro?
All right, so social interaction between them, I think they're going to be pretty flat, hierarchy speaking. And except they might say that similar to the old, like they have a little bit of fey court influence. So someone who has found the most stuff and therefore owns it. I feel like between if you found people, if you found objects, that would kind of add to a status in a way. It doesn't have to necessarily be things you could wear. It's just people know you've got stuff. And that's the thing. They know what other plant pod people own. That would be something that would be kind of ingrained into them as that's really, so that is a pretty strict hierarchy in a sense, because you wouldn't take things from others. So that's like a social rule for them, I would say. So pod people's stuff is basically their stuff, and you don't just like snatch it up just because they're not around.
So maybe they have this is in your home, so it must be yours.
Yeah, that's a good kind of, if I walked into somebody else's place in the pod people land, I would just assume that I'm not allowed to have anything.
Slats, I think you actually hit the nail on the head right there. Dinner parties to show off their stuff. Maybe that is literally a function. Maybe the most important person in one of these villages is the one with all the awesome stuff in their pod, and everybody else comes over to eat some fish and be like, man, can I trade for that knickknack? I really want it. I want to be your friend now because you have the best knickknacks.
So they have parties to show off their possessions. So they might get a particularly interesting person, fish them out of the water from a shipwreck or something, and be like, I'm going to throw a party because I found two really, really cool people.
Yeah, exactly. And then the pod person shows off the people they found. Oh, here we go. Jonathan Snow wants to know, can they talk with the fish or some other kind of sea creature communication?
I'm like this close to giving them druidcraft and some like druidish kind of feeling abilities. I really want them to be able to kind of sculpt the plants, because we've got them so they've got like these diving bells, right?
Yeah.
Like naturally. So I feel like they should be able to manipulate that in some way, like maybe make it more buoyant, make it less buoyant by shrinking or growing it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that could be done with druidcraft. So I really just want to give them druidcraft.
If they all have druidcraft, then it makes it much easier, and we don't, because as soon as we say, well, someone else was doing that for them, it takes away some of the individuality of all of them and makes it so that there would be a hierarchy, like the guy who builds all the houses. If that's the only person with a skill, probably going to be the most important guy around. So
yeah, you gain the cantrip druidcraft.
Axnar asks, so if these creatures are regularly possessing, detaining people, good wording, wouldn't other races be hostile towards them anytime they're encountered? It's an interesting question, but try and think of it this way. We don't have any form of telecommunication. We don't have any form of high technology. We don't really have life rafts.
You died at sea, pretty much.
If you're lost at sea, you're dead. And unless someone can go way down into the pod people houses, they have no idea that you ever got found by them. So there may be a natural distrust. Maybe they heard stories and they know something about this practice. But other than that, you'd have no idea.
It would be like going into, in Lord of the Rings, the Wood Elf King's place and being like, we heard you have some dwarves here and we want them released. You know, like, what do you mean? You mean my stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So that's the kind of thing. That's just not.
And it may also be completely non-confrontational. Me and Nate and I are out adventuring. I see Nate fall off the deck of the boat. Nate doesn't die. For whatever reason, I know he's not dead. So I go to the pod people and I'm like, hey, I want to get Nate back. I might have to trade them a bunch of stuff. Like maybe they want all the oars off of my boat. That's what they want. That's what Nate's worth, is all the oars off my boat. Maybe they want the sail off my sailing ship because they could use it for something. Like, who knows? But maybe it's non-confrontational. Maybe I can just go to them and trade to get him back.
Yeah, it might just be some gold. Like, what's that? Like, people used to pay for harming others, like a weregild or whatever like that. So you could just be like, well, this is like how much a person's worth if you rescued them from the sea. So it's just maybe like a known thing. If you pick somebody up that's stranded, it's like, oh, thanks, like a tip almost. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like they would expect to have you buy them back because they're owned by the pod person, so they expect to be traded for it.
How many barrels is Nate worth? Minimum 2.
Mithril barrels. 2 mithril barrels. So that's my thought on it. And yes, I would say, Axoneer, you said surly people have escaped over the years. Absolutely. But that's like a fish story. Do you know what I mean? Like
a mermaid story.
Yeah. Oh, a mermaid rescued me. They were green and they didn't have flippers, and they fed me all kinds of stuff I asked for, but they wouldn't let me leave. And then 3 years later, they let me leave. And you're like, are you talking about those green sea people?
I also
we only trade with them. We don't talk to those people. They're crazy.
Like a really cool character backstory would be, I was raised by the sea people. So you kind of have that thought process of how ownership works and stuff, but you're a human. And then one day you were traded away because some dude saw you maybe walking around on the floating island and took pity on you and was like, is that a 12-year-old? I'll trade for that. What do you want for that? Why is that kid here? And so maybe that's like, that could be your character's backstory. I lived with pod people when I was a baby.
And then I joined a ship captain on adventures or whatever.
Exactly. Like very cool backstory in the works there.
Yeah. And you would have kind of weird social awkwardness. Like you'd basically be a far traveler, but you just lived, you know, a little bit away on a floating reed mat. And Cardboard Fortress says, in Sharn and Eberron, there is a law that says if you save someone with a featherfall, you get a reward. But if you don't and they die, you can be charged. Oh, the magocracy. Regulation.
One day, I'm going to convince Nate. There's going to be a whole stream. It's just going to be the magocracy. That's all we're going to talk about.
That's a stream for another day. And sadly, not tomorrow. But cool thing is, Ted has his RPG crate thing tomorrow. So we will not be doing streaming tomorrow like we normally do on Fridays.
We'll probably be watching Ted's RPG crate.
We'll be watching Ted's run through of that.
Russet Man on Twitch said clothing fashion would be interesting with these guys. Well, they could wear clothes that they make. The clothes from above might look interesting as well. So I think to me, they seem like the kind of people who would be like, I like this because of something, but generally speaking, it would probably be more utility or just weirdness. Like you may see this big, tough tribal pod person, which they really need a name. Chat, that's your job. Anytime you want to weigh in on what their name is, let us know. This big, tough pod person that hangs out on the mobile island all the time, and he's wearing a beautiful dress, but that's the piece he wants to wear because it looks cool when he's swimming or something.
And it's big. Makes him look bigger, fluffy.
Yeah, exactly.
It has a lot of qualities that he likes in a possession.
It's fluffy and yellow. What? Yes.
So how would these pod people deal with a captive who is very distraught over losing their family and friends, like a mother whose children were also on the boat who may or may not have been rescued? Axoneer, they would probably just say, okay, you're sad about that. Is there something I can do to make you happy?
Yeah, what nice things can we bring you? Yeah. And this is where the extremism would come in, where they're like, I have this human and all the other pod people think it's really cool. So I'm trying to get stuff to keep the human happy. So I may have slaughtered a few sailors in order to take their stuff because that's the kind of thing that I thought he'd want. I know, always to the dark side.
Yeah. Cardboard Fortress. We are talking about like seaweed elves.
Basically, they're seaweed elves.
They're like kelplings.
Proudy elves? Russet Man said proudy elves. What is the definition of that word? Where did you dig that word up, Russet Man? That's an interesting word. I could see them wearing large flag-like decorations, making them look like a betta fish. Also called fighting fish, if you're not familiar. Typically, they grow in rice paddies.
Oh yeah, they probably would have a lot of fun.
They're not plants.
Having all these frills on, swimming around.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's a performance they do.
The undersea dances.
Oh, thank you, Slats, for the Macrocystian, which is the genus of the kelp with the gas pods that hold them afloat.
Ooh, okay. Words that need to be written down.
Yeah, sadly, Cystis doesn't really sound like a nice name. It's macro makes me think of mackerel.
It's for impact, but it's always about contrast.
Yeah.
So you have some wispy, swimming, ephemeral looking, pod person, and then the name of the plant right to the side of it. Yeah. Suddenly the impact isn't as bad.
Why not call them seaweed elves or kelp elves? Sargosians.
Kelves.
Kelves.
I feel like you're not trying very hard.
No, that's beautiful. Oh, cardboard fortress. We have not discussed seahorse mounts. Back on the seaweed.
No. I'm gonna be totally honest. My least favorite level in any game is the water level. And when I played World of Warcraft a lot and they came out with the undersea adventures, it was a huge bummer for me. Like, incredibly big bummer. I hated it. So,
all right, it's confession time. All right, so if people are familiar with Skyrim, there's the area to the north where it's like ice flows and you can go and there's like sunken ships and all this awesome stuff. There's also slaughterfish that are like bigger than your entire body and will kill you. Yeah, I don't go there. If I can't jump to it from ice, I don't go anywhere. Nope. If I can't cross it with a bridge or go to it on ice flows, I don't go to it. So there's a whole bunch of goodies that I've just never gotten in that game because I refuse to go in the water in games.
Cardboard Fortress, I think the seahorse, he said, your Cardboard Fortress question is, yeah, but have you seen the seahorses that look like seaweed? I think those seahorses you're talking about are the ones that are native to Australia.
Yeah, they've got the frills that go back and they look like basically like part of kelp or something. They blend practically right in.
Creatures hanging off of the kelp, like the seahorse. That's kind of amazing.
Oh,
yeah. That's kind of awesome sounding. And technically that tail isn't a tentacle. We have rules. We have some rules tonight.
Yes, we had to implement a few rules.
We had to implement some chat rules. Here's our chat rules for tonight. They're not super restrictive, but they might be. No sharks, no tentacles.
No tentacled sharks.
And no sharktopus. None of that. So as soon as we're done with our pod people, which we'll wrap them up pretty quickly, we're going to go pretty much straight to you guys to try and come up with creature concepts. And James Leslie said, but the squid trolls.
Yeah, we saw you coming.
Yeah, I ratted you out, dude. I totally told Nate about that. Mr. Neuf would like to know what program we are using.
We are using homebrewery.naturalcrit.com.
Exactly. Let me see if I can get you a crit to that. We need some proper moderators in that chat over there. It's basically me right now.
You're a proper moderator.
I'm a proper moderator.
You totally have a little wrench next to your name. Of course you are.
Yay.
Or something else. All right.
Here's a link, dude.
So let's capture that bit about the seahorse thing. I like that.
I really like that. Like, that brings up an awesome idea of like these huge creatures just dangling off the seaweed. Maybe they consume the fresh sprouts or something that are coming out, like the little buds of fresh growth. They just naturally chew on them or something. Bustin' Neat said, mod me. The thing we actually need more moderators for, which I have some people in mind, we just haven't done it yet, is for Twitch chat.
Yes. Seaweed and kelp like seahorses.
Like seahorses.
Kelp-like, as in it should be a dash.
Axonar said, I need to get going. Later, homie. I might be back before the stream ends. I wanted to re-mention the underwater spiders that spin webs. Yes. The spiders with the net webbing thing to catch things. Still think that's a cool idea. Mix that with like a water bug. Terrifying. So,
reskinned assassin vines as pets. That's a good suggestion. Cardboard Fortress. I like that. All right. What else? There's one more thing about these people.
We covered people are things to them, which is super messed up.
Well, they're things similar to the Fae. Like, the Fae have their own kind of hierarchy, and I think it's where the High Elves get their, like, snootiness from, in general, is that, the Fae are a separate species of creature, and they look upon everything else as less than. Do you know? Yes.
I think the mentality, really what it's going to come down to, we need a single fluff piece that conveys the concept fully, so that anyone who wanted to use this could be like, I get it. Maybe just the RP direction. Like sometimes with playable races, you put in like a little, you're going to be role playing this. Good luck. You know. Cardboard Fortress says, I think their homelands could be like Sargasso Sea, in the same way Wood Elves have their forests in the Lord of the Ring. Ships get wrecked if they try to infringe on their territory. Absolutely. And there's right now, when we're doing the world building, we got into bigger discussions about this, but there is kind of a setup for who can travel where and why. And
well, that's in the coral areas, and every little island nation has their own thing. But with these, you can put these anywhere because they float on basically a growing, living mat of this kelp stuff and reeds and saltwater liking trees and stuff that you'd find on an island could grow on this. So you have that, but you also have smaller islands that maybe are submerged a little bit, and they don't purposefully go out of their way to sink ships, but it just will naturally happen due to this outgrowth of this island that changes due to it being an organic thing.
Right.
Do you see what I mean? So they're not making obstacles. The obstacles just naturally occur.
And if you've ever seen like fog on a sea, especially if they're in like a doldrum area where the winds aren't very strong and there's a super thick fog, you can really only see like 60 or 100 feet in front of the ship, sometimes less.
Yeah, and then seeing underwater at that same point, where it can affect your ship, that's not very easy to do.
Electric eels. Yeah, electric eels are actually a freshwater thing. Not that matters. Well, one thing we have going for us right now is but D&D, but magic.
Yeah.
But yeah, electric eels are Amazon. And they are gnarly. So they deliver a massive amount of electricity.
Yeah, they are gnarly. So I want to add something to this. The Tritons normally they're amphibious, the Tritons. I want these guys to only be able to hold their breath for a really long time. Does that make sense?
But I'm emotionally attached to them having gills. Maybe that's why they need to drink so much water, is to keep the gills wet.
Okay, so we're saying they're not necessarily amphibious. They hold their breath when they go into the air, and they need to breathe through a cup of water.
What about?
I'm fine with making amphibious. It's not a really powerful ability.
I don't think it's going to be a game breaker.
No, I'm fine with making it amphibious. I just like the idea of them holding their breath.
Well, but then we don't get awesome gills. And the entire time we've been talking about this, my brain has been in the Abe Sapien. If you guys maybe don't remember who Abe Sapien is, he is the, what's the best way to describe it? The fish guy from Hellboy. So the fish guy from Hellboy, he was also in a much more recent movie, although it wasn't officially Hellboy canon. Where it was essentially like an Abe Sapien origin story. I can't remember the name of that movie though. Oh well. Gill-like kelpie frills. Oh, sorry. Chat kills me. You guys crack me up. M14 says, instead of a swim oxygen tank, they need an air water tank.
Like a backpack just full of water.
Exactly. Maybe they have trained barracudas that can shoot like a crossbow. What are you talking about, Paul?
They train them and they just launch themselves forward like an attack.
What was the name of that cartoon when we were kids where they had the snorkels? They had like a little breathing thing off the top of their head.
I think that's the snorks.
Oh man.
I don't think they were called the snorkels because that would be like calling them the goggles or something.
Charles Hager. What an interesting concept. maybe they love their own image so much so that they value mirrors quite a bit.
Okay. That would be like they like to have calm water and things around so that they can look up themselves.
Yeah, like Narcissus. The old legend, this guy's so in love with his own appearance that he peers into a river, and this woman who's scorned because he loves himself more than her, she turns him into a flower, so he can stare at his own face all day long.
Yeah, take that.
Pirates of Darkwater. All right, I'll write it down.
All right, so there are a few spells that we could have up for grabs if we wanted to make them more kind of Fey Druid powers. And a very nice thing is that the Triton already has this kind of built in. So if we snag this from the Triton, we can kind of augment it to be water and plants, or water creatures, or just creatures in general and plants and water. You know, we can draw from a lot of things there. Mm-hmm. So I just want to keep that as an idea for what could be possible.
Okay.
And because it's a second level spell, and whatever Wall of Water is, a third level spell. So a third level they can cast a second.
Third?
Yep. A second and a third. So something good from second, something good from third.
Oh man.
That's what we're looking for.
Let's see here. Maybe the Cardboard Fortress said maybe the center of their Sargasso area has a calm pool of holy water that is the center of their faith. We haven't even discussed faith.
No,
I don't think that topic's come up at all.
Man.
And now I have a lot of ideas running.
Yeah. Well, I would think they're going to be really into the natural order of things. So I think they're going to be more like they're going to be close to elves in that kind of philosophy. So make things as naturally. They might own really nice stuff that's made by other people, but that's really just like status symbol stuff. That's not religious items.
Mm-hmm.
That's their bling.
Brian, their bling. Brian Smith, thank you for that. The Del Toro movie was Shape of Water. If you'd like to get your Abe Sapien fix, I believe that's the one.
Okay, yeah, that's the newer one, right?
And even though everyone denies that it's an Abe Sapien movie, that's Abe Sapien. It's the same guy. It's the same guy. You can't fool me. You've got all kinds of stuff in here. Slots brings up an easy idea. This is one of those ideas that's so interesting, it's easy to insert and just be like, we fixed the problem. Okay, so they're so narcissistic, they don't worship anything but themselves.
And they have this central title pool kind of thing that's kind of, it would have to be set aside and put aside far enough away that it, and also stabilized so it wouldn't have a lot of ripple to it. So it'd be like the central bell where people go to just kind of look at themselves. Exactly.
Mirrors would be incredibly valuable to them, but mirrors were incredibly valuable back then. They were pretty hard to produce.
Because the getting a nice piece of what was like polished steel was polished metal was gonna happen before they silvered before they silver a piece of glass nice enough that it's gonna work out. That's what I would think anyway. So I'm right now I'm looking at Find Steed. I know it's kind of a strange pick, but it's pretty cool. Either that or locate animals or plants.
I vote we bring Chad in on this. I'm vehemently against seahorse mounts. Chat, would you like to weigh in and dictate the seahorse mount situation for us here? I'm violently against this. I absolutely do not like seahorse mounts.
I'll believe it when I see this violence.
Raising the question of Dan Pitt said, then how do they breed if they don't find others attractive?
They're pod people.
Well,
They are.
well, originally the idea that there would be like they would make like little egg sacs that they would attach to the kelp stuff, and then I mean, how do you want to do it? They got to make babies somehow.
Yeah.
Have this conversation.
Yeah. Let's say that it is involves plants. So it's like either like it could be two of them choose to have children, and then it's some kind of like plant magic ritual thing. That's what I'm going for. And okay, so I'll go with locate animals and plants as a spell they get. I think that's a pretty cool spell. I think it's handy. It's not awesome, but it has a utility to it. And there's going to be times where it's going to be extremely useful.
If they're plant-based, do they need a gender?
Not really.
No.
But they're fae as well. So, you know, like, are dryads all females? I don't know.
They're typically in art, dryads are represented as females, but I always make them genderless because this is a tree spirit. Why in God's name would it have a gender?
Some trees are actually separated like that.
I guess they are. And why do they always make treants have beards like they're dudes?
It's an entism.
It's an entism.
Isn't it like one of them was Treebeard or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What?
That's a Lord of the Ringism.
It's a tree.
Like super elves.
My scientific mind chooses to argue with the magic of Dungeons and Dragons. That's a losing battle, by the way, folks. Don't get in that fight.
I'd rather have a giant crab companion to help them find things on the seafloor. Russet man, that's a good idea.
Like like big enough that they just go up to it, maybe put a hand on it, and just communicate with plants and animals, and then swim away, and it would do digging for them or something. Like very utilitarian. Like our tractor is that huge crab over there. He's doing his own thing right now, but later if we need him, we'll go ask him to move some stuff for us.
Russet man, I think you might have stumbled upon something or thought it up nicely. Let's see. So they could be genderless as a whole, but some could try out being a man or a woman just for the novelty of it.
There are fish that do that.
Yeah,
it's not for the novelty.
If you're, it's kind of like maybe they have the ability to mimic other creatures to a certain extent. Like they could say, they're normally this particular way, but they can pronounce, like they can kind of distort themselves. So they could either look like a male or female gender, or they could be just kind of like, I don't know, like they could look like a 5.5 foot tall 10-year-old, or, whatever their kind of personal desire to look, especially if they're obsessed with looks.
Maybe because they're plant-based, maybe their appearance change could just be a matter of time rather than instantaneous changes like some octopus or cuttlefish or anything like that. It would just be over time, they could change their appearance into something they'd like to look more like.
And it doesn't make their charisma any different or anything like that. It just alters.
They're still super weird in the conversation. They're not normal by any stretch of the imagination.
No, not at all.
Contours of your body are not going to fix that.
But now I've got this awesome chin.
Exactly.
And kelp beard.
Look at my chin.
Look at my kelp beard. Magnificence.
Oh man, chat blew up. Let me try and catch up with chat a little bit here. Oh yay, Brian Smith, Charles Hagar. We had a few people. Mr. Newf said boo, down with seahorses. Yeah.
All right. We'll go down with seahorses. No seahorses. But they're there. They're around, but they don't like ride them all the time.
Dan Pitt offers a completely acceptable alternative that's only mildly tropey. He said manta ray mounts. I'm totally cool with that. It's not a seahorse, for God's sake.
I like it, but if there's no seahorses, there's no manta rays.
You see what you did?
This is why we can't have nice things. Seahorses. Yeah.
Undefiable Herald, we are, if you read some of the stuff on text over here and over, is that the right? No, it's this way. Yeah. If you read some of the stuff on chat or on the screen, words are so hard. We have pod people, sea people. They still don't have a name, and we're defining different characteristics of them right now. And then pretty soon here, we're going to get into some crazy stuff. Slat said seahorses forever. You just said that to spite me.
Okay, what would their casting stat be? I'm thinking it's charisma. Because it's like their natural magic. They don't get any pluses to it, but well, I mean, they get a +1 to Dex, a +1 to Con. We could give them a +1 to Charisma, but it's simply because of their magical nature. It doesn't. They would really get a -2 Charisma, but they're super magical creatures.
I feel like it suits the flavor of other designs that already exist in 5e, and I like the idea of conforming to what's already out there, so people kind of the things, their expectations would be more intuitive when they're going to make up a character. They'd say, oh, charisma, yeah, of course, even though they're super weird. That for the context of magic, that doesn't matter at all. So we got to vote for wisdom.
All right.
We got to vote for charisma because they love themselves.
Well, I would think they would have a natural like fey aesthetic, even though they're plant creatures, and they would also have they've got that magical presence to them, even though they've got that awkward exchange culturally. They've got a large amount of negatives. But I would say it would let's say it would be a +2 charisma, but they're that awful to deal with sometimes based on their other fluff stuff.
Well, Cardboard Fortress actually brings up an interesting point that may address specifically what you're talking about. He said give them a bonus to charisma, but a disadvantage on diplomacy with other races. It's an interesting take on it, and it does fit the fluff quite well.
Yeah, so let's say a +1 for charisma. And the second spell I picked was Plant Growth, which is a fantastic spell. It doesn't do damage, but it is an awesome spell, and it's right up there with what they're doing. Because technically, they could use it offensively by growing their seaweed mat to be tremendous in all directions. Just kind of like grow over everything, really, if they wanted to.
Zerg creep,
they could totally Zerg creep the entire area and just consume islands with it. So it could get pretty hideous. But they could also just be like, oh, I'm going to grow my house to be bigger, or I'm going to grow it to be smaller because it's a diving bell.
Mr. Newif said dolphin mounts, but not really mounts. Rather, they'd be essentially a speed booster. They just hang on them when the dolphins swim. And around an island area like that would be a safe space for the dolphins to hang out. Though that huge covering, the amount of surface area the island covers, there would be massive amounts of fish that would want to live and congregate near that just because of all the stuff that's living on the bottom of that island. I mean, we're talking about a whole ecosystem living on the bottom of that island. So an animal like a dolphin that I'm trying to think, maybe they would, because when you're generating a sound underground, you have a lot of limitations. Dolphin chariot. I don't think we're going that far. But if you were like clicking or making a whistle or a really low bass tone or something like that, something that doesn't require the same human method of speaking, you could maybe call dolphins to you and, just grab a fin. And once you're done with your ride, the dolphins go back to whatever dolphins do all day. What do dolphins do all day?
They play and they eat. And they headbutt people that they don't like.
They do that.
Diplomacy. I know there's persuasion in 5e, but I have never chosen diplomacy. Is it an actual skill? I'm like questioning if it's a skill or not in 5e, but I guess it is. Cardboard Fortress said it. I'm assuming it is.
Yeah. Man knows his stuff.
All right,
Man
so
knows his stuff.
strange actors that you basically gain disadvantage when attempting diplomacy with other races simply because you just have some strange quirks about you when it comes down
Right.
to it. You're good at persuading them because normally you're a good trader.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to like I don't know, smooth over an incident between you and others, or like someone realizes that you actually own their buddy that they thought would died several years ago, that would be a situation in which you're going to suffer disadvantage for it.
Mm.
It is just persuasion.
Yeah. He said, I think it's called persuasion, but we all know what it is.
Yeah, we all know what it is.
Guys, make a roll. I don't remember. Just you know what it is.
Yeah,
you know what
make a roll. Add your charisma.
Do the thing.
Do it.
I'm just here to tell the story. You guys figure the rules out. It's fine.
Okay, I think that's pretty fleshed out.
I feel good about that. Do we want to give chat a chance to weigh in on anything they feel like? We're not going to get to make a creature if we spend too much time on this.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Is there anything else that anyone feels like we didn't touch on, or something like critically important we need to add in before we're done here? I feel like that looks good.
Yeah, I think so. So we're going to go on and make some new things.
Jonathan Snow is asking about currency. We are fleshing out the currency in the world building stuff right now. So, or the concept.
What?
Dark vision.
That would be really important.
They're really useless at deep depths if they don't have dark vision.
Yeah, that'll have to get at it.
And hey, everyone else has dark vision in 5th edition. So
almost everyone, yes.
Yeah.
Dragonborn don't. Their breath weapon is just so awesome, right? Wizards of the Coast.
Well, that's I always looked at Dragonborn's breath weapon as a really awesome utility to have.
It's cool, and at low levels, I have to say, at first level, it was really great playing a Dragonborn. But there's gonna be a certain point where it's just like a joke to use it instead of just hitting something.
Okay, is this the moment where chat uses its superpowers? Did you break something?
I clicked on something that added a whole bunch of goofery. All right. Yes, it is mashup time.
Oh, I see what you clicked on. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, no tentacles, no sharks, no sharktopus.
Yeah, forbidden.
2 sea creatures that fit those criteria that we can stuff in a blender, blend up, pour out, and be like, look, a creature, or an energy drink, or breakfast,
or both,
or both. Exactly.
It's an energy drink that keeps growing, so you have energy forever. It's pureed troll.
Pureed troll.
Blenderized.
Delicious.
Tastes
I just
like
make
swamp.
one of these every morning in my Ninja. Just grind it up. Delicious.
All right. So I see Russet Man. So for the underwater spider, we could add a crab-like carapace. So why don't we make it less like an arachnid and more like a crab, which is kind of like an arachnid, but they're different.
I'm going to horribly distort the spine of my book, but I'm going to show the thing that I want. I want a sea creature version of this. This is what I want.
Oh, I can't see it, so I don't know.
Oh, this?
Oh, you want like a narwhal seahorse?
No, I don't want a horn. I don't want any of that ridiculousness. I just want something that the sea is its thing. Just like
okay.
There are no unicorns in the desert, but there should be. Deserts are beautiful and amazing and awesome.
We made one for a Patreon reward. It's called a Shadhavar. And it's like a carnivorous unicorn horse.
No, I want it to be nice, not murdery.
You want nice things?
I'm just saying, I want something.
You're always darkening up everything.
It's not.
So now you want the fluffy bunnies and unicorn rainbows. Literally, a unicorn rainbow of the sea. All right.
I just want something that's completely entrenched in its environment. Like a unicorn, if you picture one of those in a temperate forest environment, it's completely entrenched in its environment.
Yeah,
it
owns it. All right. I think we should start with a hulking crab. And
not a seahorse. You guys are killing me.
So, what do you think? Hulking crab plus spider. Splap. No. James Leslie says no sea bronies.
Clam horse.
Clam horse.
I understand. I don't want a hippocampus. It doesn't have to be a horse or have a horn or anything like that. It's just the concept that it's completely entrenched in its environment. Yeah, and Cardboard Fortress said lame. Spiders and crabs are basically the same thing.
A spider crab.
A hydra aboleth.
A hydra aboleth?
Aboleths have tentacles. That might be against the rules.
That kind of disqualifies them.
Cardboard Fortress is hardcore about the clam. He wants
the clam horse?
He wants, I don't know, he just wants a clam in somehow, just in some way. A clam.
Uniclam.
Hydra snapping turtles.
Oh, man.
There is a sea lion with scales, but I cannot remember what it's called right now.
Manchan says a black pudding mixed with a bunch of other monsters.
That's an easy recipe. You can do that anybody.
A crab clam. How would that even work?
What? Hydra and clam. Wait. A hydra clam? No, it's weird. Hydra and electric eel. Not that bad.
All right. That bad. What if it looks like a cluster of clams, but the clams are actually its head. The clam shells are actually its heads, and its tongues are the necks, and it bludgeons you to death and then slurps you up.
I hate this.
No tentacles. It's way too close to tentacles. Okay, I think a hydra's got to bite the dust. No, hydra is too tentacly.
Dolmedes is the fishing spider, by the way. The actual existing fishing spider.
Hydra and electric eel.
There's all kinds of real creatures that we could be drawing. There's bullet fish. They spit water out and knock bugs off of nearby branches and stuff in order to eat them.
Okay. That could be a shallow water reef area.
I know. I want chat to give us our breakthrough. I want all the pressure's on you guys. We'll just wait. We'll just sit here.
Cardboard Fortress, a crab that is inside a clamshell. Oh wait, that's a hermit crab. Exactly. That's what I was like. No, not a hermit crab. Sea serpent lobster. All right. It's like everything's gone away because we said no tentacles, no sharks.
I know. Things went south as soon as we said that.
I'm just going to keep making my spider crab no matter how lame it is.
It's no spider crab.
What? No spider crab?
Well, because it's the same. They're both arachnids, essentially.
Yeah and no.
I mean, literally, we'd have to... A spider crab, there's literally a creature called a spider crab.
Yes, but does it spin webs underwater? I think the answer to that would be either you don't know or no.
Gabe Grisbaum said clam horse, body of a horse, head of a clam. I would like some fan art of these creatures if anyone's interested.
Absolutely.
Start with the clam horse, please.
I demand fan art. All right. If you make a convincing creature drawing, I will consider it as having to be done.
Russet Man is accepting of your spider creature idea.
That's what I thought.
He said someone has approval of your...
Well, at least I got a one.
Yeah, you have one supporter. He said add rust monster onto the spider crab and make the smokers hate them.
That'd be quite a nuisance.
Mm-hmm. A crab with a seaweed mound on its back. It can animate its seaweed to act as its web. Sea serpent tiger, mimic and clam mashup. Why did clam come up?
Oh
Why
man, so
clam...
it's like there's a clam. It's got a protective shell, and inside is the metamorphic mimic. And it could make himself into a person, like a fake person that's like, help me, and then you come up to it, and it's like, and then you go in the clam and you're eating.
I'm in no way inspired by this. Cardboard Fortress, I blame you directly for the clam problem we're currently having.
He shouts clam. Humanoid clam people. All right, back to the spider crab.
All right, I'm thinking. I'm using
all right,
all
I'll
my
do the
brain.
spider crab really fast, and then we can move on.
Now we're stuck with a spider crab. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's what you. Yeah.
All right, all right, let's
It'll be really quick.
This is the direction we're going. So let's see what we can do here. Spider crab.
All right. So it's going to have webbing.
Okay.
It's going to have like armor plating stuff for like the crab. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it will also have some claw action. What do you think?
I think it's a spider crab.
Yes. I think, I don't know. I think Gary Gygax would like it.
Where oysters and where clams.
Where oysters. Fantastic.
Yep. That's where we are right now.
See, they're revolting because you said no sharks, no tentacles.
I took all the good stuff off the table, and they're like, "Fine, if that's how you're gonna be about it.
See what we do about that." I see your no tentacles and no sharks, and raise you a clam hydra.
James Leslie does bring a way for me to save the spider clam. What that thing? He said, take the spider crab a step farther and make it an ettercap crab. I can get behind that.
Okay. So it does not really look like a crab or a spider.
But it would contain features of them. The ettercap typically had like crazy lots of eyes, spun webs. We could still give it chitin, like an exoskeleton.
Okay.
Could work.
Let's look at the ettercap and see if there's anything missing that, aside from just its humanoid body shape.
Yeah, that's got to go.
Wait, you don't want it to be humanoid? Do you want it to look like a spider crab?
Yes, it can be humanoid, but some of the humanoidness is going to go away because we're going to give it like a crab shell and crazy claws instead of long fingers. And
well, it's got two crazy claws for its feet and its hand, so it's already kind of like.
Which picture of ettercap do you have?
I'm looking at the 5e one because that's the addition.
Because that's what we're doing right now. Try and keep up, okay, buddy?
Sorry, all the clam stuff has made me get saucy. Sorry.
I don't appreciate your tone, sir.
Okay.
All right. There we go. Ettercap. But we're gonna make a crabby version of him.
Yes.
Just meaning he's grumpy. He's nothing like a crab.
So let's the ettercap's got 14 strength, 15 dex. So I want to make this a little bit better on the dex. So I like a 16 dex, which is more spidery dex than crab dex. So Constitution, I'm thinking it should be pretty hardy. So are we looking at like 14, 16, 16?
I'm trying to bring up like mental image, like how am I describing this thing interacting with players? I see this being like really lithe and barnacle-y, like a slow hunter. Like this thing, it does not move until it thinks there's food nearby.
Okay.
Probably most of the time it thinks there's food nearby is if there's, especially if it lives in really deep water. Yeah, no sharks, no tentacles, guys. If it lives in really deep water, we have to keep it under control. No, if it lives in really deep water, it would need to, maybe it would like shoot webbing onto the side of a boat that's passing over.
Okay.
And then like drag itself on. And it's got, it's not meant to be out of water, so it can only hold its breath for a little while, and it's going to try and drag somebody back down with it.
All right, so we want to make it where it can hold its breath, but it's actually holding its breath of water.
Yes.
Okay.
You could even do these like like crabs. Crabs can be out of water for a reasonable period of time. Depending on
Well, they've given them the amphibious trait in 5e because of how
really?
long they can hang out.
Yeah. And there are land crabs that literally just
So
don't.
I would rather it be where you could get caught. You know, you go into a cove or something like that, and you get stuck in a web that's under the water, and then the Eder crab comes out of the darkness, and
Sounds like we're not even trying, doesn't it? Eder crab.
well, we don't have a name for it yet.
We never named our people, our pod
The
people.
shelled stalker. There we go.
Shelled stalker. I could go for either of those. Air bubble traps. That's a cool idea. There's so many directions you could go in with this thing. I think
I'm just glad we're not fighting over crabs anymore.
unacceptable.
Eder crab.
Oh, whale Tarask. There's a creature that is the behemoth. If you Google behemoth, you should come up with a giant whale creature that drags itself out of the water and goes on Tarask-like rampages. Or Godzilla, either one. And you'll...
So we're all agreed that this is a monstrosity, and that it's evil.
Yes.
And that it's evil.
It's an evil, maligned creature that wishes to drag you into the murky depths. Although I'll be honest, most super deep water isn't murky. But anyway, it's like crystal clear. But that's beside the point.
Well, it's like the length of the depth that you try and look through. That's the
there
problem.
We go. Cardboard Fortress and Dan Pitt said Leviathan. Leviathan is what I'm thinking. Thanks, guys. Interesting mechanics for this.
Okay.
Neat stuff it does. How would it typically catch its prey? There's no adventurers around to eat, but it's still got to feed itself.
Well, it would probably catch fish in some kind of webbing, a net, basically made out of its webs.
What if we did a monofilament thing, right? Because if you took spider web and threw it in water, it just could dissolve into nothing. But
regular spider webs, yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's those one spiders that make a little diving bell out of their webs, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, a little bubble.
Well, let's just say seawater cures this, so it's like fine.
What if it was monofilament? Are you familiar with that term?
I'm thinking. I think warp spiders from 40K immediately from the Eldar army.
Okay, so
I'm
anyone
familiar with it.
Isn't familiar with the concept of a monofilament thing? It's essentially you take a string and you say monofilament, meaning one molecule thick, so that as an edge, it's a perfect cutting surface. So in this case, we could say that what if it lays its webbing out and then it cures in the seawater into razor-like webbing.
Okay. So it's not sticky, it'll cut you.
Precisely. So if you bump into this, you lop your foot off. No? Yes? You feeling it? You not feeling it?
I'm not digging it. I don't know.
You're not digging it?
Yeah, okay. I'm not digging it.
I love monofilament things, so
I feel like it's too high tech.
It's too well. The other problem is that it'd be essentially see-through in the water.
Yeah.
So it's just ultra evil as far as using it against players, because you can say there's a sticky tripwire here and you're stuck on it, but if you say there's a monofilament tripwire here, I'm gonna roll the hit, and if I get a 20, you don't have a foot anymore.
Yeah, just cut your foot off while you're swimming through
I
the
like
water.
It more now. I think. Okay, Cardboard Fortress had a question about the creature. Maybe it'll give us more stuff to define. The real question is, how do you expect the creature to be involved in a normal adventure? My envisioning of this is like a stormy night and the creature crawling up the side of a boat and trying to take someone while they're sleeping. That's kind of where my head went, or maybe partially submerged caves, like off of a coastline or something. Maybe you encounter it there. Maybe that's its home.
I would think it's it's a trap layer, or it's something that, like you're saying, will come out, munch on somebody, or entrap them, bite them, and take them into the sea.
That's excellent language. It'll munch. You just wake up. Nate, your character is woken up. You take 1 point of damage. You're being munched on.
And make a con save because you might be poisoned.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a good thing. They thought they didn't have to set watch, did they? Take that.
What about, okay, so we've got netting, so it's laying traps. The traps would be interesting because they would be in the water, so people would be fairly unsuspecting of them. Let's see here. Cardboard Fortress said if you wanted to interact with players on boats, then make it a deep water trapper. Making it a deep water trapper is sort of pointless. I definitely see where you're coming from there. I think it would be, I think that was kind of the direction Nate was going in earlier, is that would be like coastal.
Oh yeah. It hangs out. That's why I said I'd rather just be amphibious, so that it's where the two different types of terrain meet. Similar to how a lot of creatures hang out in between the grasslands and the forest, because they eat grass. You've got the coastline where you've got the reefs and you've got the other things that are shallow, and then you have the stuff that might be underwater sometime and isn't other times. And what I'm saying is ships, like you could be in an area that is not very high water-wise, like deep water-wise, and it could just simply be around in a reef someplace, swim up to your boat because it's passing by, and take somebody.
Have it fish for sailors with hooks on web lines and flip the script, yo. I got one. Oh god.
So what I'm going with here, we've got amphibious, we have shell camouflage, which if it stays motionless, it's hard to discern that it's not just a pile of shell or rubble down in wherever it's hiding in the reef. We've got the things from Ettercap, Web Sense, Web Walker, and Web Netting is what I was going to add, which is like the trap ability.
Okay.
So, and then it's got its claw and a bite, and its ability to make a web.
Poison?
Yes, let's do poison.
High armor class because of hardcore shell?
Yeah. Got like a 14, let's say 15. 15 would be pretty good.
Okay. Hey, it's Old Grumpy. What's up, Old Grumpy?
So that's what we would go with. And I guess the web netting is taken up by the web, pretty much.
Hi. Yeah, hiding amongst coral, James Leslie. It could be hiding in tons of different kinds of terrain.
Yeah.
And just going for anybody unsuspecting, especially most fishermen, when they go out, they're not on a giant boat. They're in a very small boat, which would make this thing horrifying. Especially just one clawed hand came up on the side of your boat while you're out there with your line trying to catch something.
So I'm going to say it can also stick things to it that will blend it into the whatever environment it's in. So if it wants to look like part of the coral reef, it would probably break off pieces of the coral, attach some webbing to it, and then adhere it to itself.
Oh, I love that idea. I absolutely love that. That is awesome. Charles Hegger has a really cool piece of fluff. I have no idea how we'd include that, but like short story wise, it makes me want to use it. Crazy idea. It attaches to the bottom of ships, so it's like grabbed onto the bottom of a ship, and then it casts a big net to catch fish as the boat tugs it for a free ride. I really like that idea, especially since my mind immediately goes to fishermen being like, Oh, the catch is terrible today. We probably have an ethercap catching a free ride on the bottom of the boat. Like, you know what I mean? Like the stories that would come from that. Like if you don't catch anything, must be the ethercap's fault.
Oh yeah, whether or not there's an actual
Yeah,
eder crab
exactly.
below you.
Yeah, exactly. Eder crab. Yeah. And then the idea of it just ripping holes apart in order to climb inside of a boat. I like that idea quite a bit.
It's got the muscles for it, that's for sure.
Exactly. I mean, this is going to be a fairly beefy creature.
Yeah. I've got a strength set at 19 right now.
Good God.
And its dex is really low.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can make it a 17. That's not a problem. It doesn't have to be a 19. It's that's kind of monstrous for a medium creature. And I was just thinking the hulking crab is like huge, and it has a 19. Mm-hmm. So perhaps making it a 19 wouldn't work out.
I really, from my perspective, I don't mind going kind of supernaturally high for any of its stats, just because I feel like, I don't know, when I'm designing creatures, I'll be totally honest, I really am thinking about murdering off players.
I think about giving them a challenge without necessarily murdering them.
Nope. My brain goes straight to, I think I can kill them with this. Good. This will be the one. Where's your fireball now, you fancy wizard? Cast disguise self whenever. Oh yeah, that's a perfectly good question. You have been killed by is a username. He said, what is the size of it? Yeah, I didn't know how to present that one, so you got fanfare.
Well, it's about it's going to be a medium creature.
Medium creature?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it could tossle around on ship decks. Could stow away in areas that a medium creature could.
Slowly creep in the water underneath, like a slow-moving sloth underneath a fisherman's boat. Something like that. Yeah.
I think that's a good mix here. We've got a nice damage for claws. We've got the bite attack. We've got the webbing. We've got all the web sense and other things that come along with being a creature that deals with webbing. And then we've got, amphibious shell camouflage because it adheses things to itself to blend in. So it has a good amount of advantage when it comes to hiding itself. And then, that kind of like fluff entered into it where there's fishtails, where sailors talk about eder crabs or whatever we'd like to call them, hanging out on their boats and catching fish in its web nets.
Terrible name. Okay, I have a few comments in chat that I thought were very interesting, kind of thought-provoking. James Lizzie said it can carve through the hull within a few minutes, even at strength 17, with huge claws, strength 17, and the will to move forward. It's probably going to get through the hull. He said that's why pod people get pet humans. So the concept of this thing, and this is a concept.
Wonderful ecology.
Yeah, exactly. We have interplay now. Another concept to hit on would be are these ship sinkers, are they solitary creatures? To me, they don't seem like they'd be smart enough to be like, hunting in a pack is useful.
I think that most camouflage ambush predators are solitary.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's see here. Cardboard Fortress said replace all the web stuff with foamy bubble stuff. Crabs make the bubbly foam stuff. It's a different feel. Now, originally, I looked at that comment and I was like, they do that usually when they're out of water, and that's a little weird. And then I remembered in Star Trek, one of the more recent movies, that Kirk and Scotty are running through this area and they run into one of those girls' traps. And it pops out all this crazy foam stuff and solidifies around them. And I thought, a big mass of bubbles like foamy, bubbly stuff might actually be kind of functional. It could just be what the webs look like on land, or maybe what the webs look like in the water.
It would just look like sea foam from the top, you know. But maybe when you're underneath and you're able to see in the water, you can kind of more easily see
the different tendrils and stuff.
Yeah, I'm cool with making it some kind of foamy sea net instead of.
If you just make a big foamy bubble mass on the top of the water and have one tendril hanging, and a little fish gets caught on a tendril, you've essentially you have like a man-made or Eder crab made jellyfish at that point, because it can't pull the buoy down. So now you've caught yourself a fish.
Okay.
This is fully functional at this point with bubbles on the end.
So let's say they're foamy bubbles.
Foamy bubbles.
I'm cool with that. I think that's a good idea. I don't know how to. Yeah, foamy bubbles, foamy bubble walker just sounds really bizarre. I'm not gonna lie.
We'll have to flesh it out over time.
But let's just put foamy bubbles in front of everything as a. It'll have to get reworked and reword it, but this is just a note. I like that idea, Cardboard Fortress. I say go with it. It does. Serves the same purpose, but I think it adds a nice aspect.
You have been killed by is asking what the CR is.
A regular ridiculously large crab was CR5, I think. And an Ettercap is a CR2. And I have lowered the hit points and the size and the strength to reflect more of a Ettercap. But it has a lot of extra nice abilities, like it's got decent combat ability, and it has its shell camouflage, and a few other things. So I'm thinking it's a CR3. That's my vote.
It depends on how. Do you, when you're making the CR of a creature, do you ever factor in the nefariousness of the DM?
No, because not all DMs are the same level of nefariosity.
Is that a word?
It is now.
Okay.
It is in the Urban Dictionary because I'm typing it in right now.
Wordsmith.
Wordsmithing. On the internet, anything could be real.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't take that into account. And Ettercaps are pretty nasty. I mean, they do like strangle you with webs, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty nasty stuff.
I definitely see this as up the beach. There's like a tidal cave. Cave that's just going to flood at high tide, that kind of thing. And some players have decided that they're going to camp there because they're just not thinking about it being a tidal cave. They camp there and then they wake up because the water's starting to come in. And then as they're packing up, trying to leave, in comes the Eder crab to make their day worse.
The foamy bubbles.
Yeah.
That sticks to all their stuff.
Oh my God.
And then they stick to all their stuff.
Yeah. I like this.
Well, reward players' choices. It's an important thing. All right. I think we can move on.
Okay. We have a very short window to create one more creature.
I think we've had enough from what everyone's suggestion was. So if we can grab something from what's already suggested or something that someone's inspired of right now, you got a couple of seconds. Bam.
A few seconds. What? I think that the clam hydra is perfectly legit. Not feeling it?
No.
Plunk, and all the heads come out? No?
No. Too close to tentacles.
It can't move. People have bows. You see the problem, right?
Yeah.
Or I guess you would use a crossbow underwater, but anyway. Daggerfish swarm, seagull rock, sea dragon and bullywug. An armadillo that spits ants at you.
Clydra.
Clydra, exactly. Yes, Clydra.
A seagull rock. That'd be pretty big.
Yeah, just a giant clam with lots of tongues. I think they're called feet. When you kill one tongue, more come out. You can just make it feet. What if like the foot on a clam is typically a strong muscle to help it move, right?
We're really wiggling a little too close to tendrils as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, mimic clams. It's just a mimic.
A flail clam, like a flail snail.
Sea dragon Tarask. Yeah, flail clam. What about something that slow moving? That's a really. What if we mix like a sea cucumber and a black ooze, or a conch? A conch will actually get its little foot super close to something and shoot a barb into it and poison it.
Assassin conchs.
Yeah, I mean, bubble elementals.
Starfish beholders. A whale ooze. That'd be like a giant sea snot or something, like a sentient sea snot.
Wait! No, this could totally work. What about the top of the creature is a really hard surface that's buoyant, and the bottom of the creature, like kind of contained in it and outside of the hard structure, is the ooze part. And so you'd smack into it with your boat, and you're shipwrecked, and then the ooze would start to creep out and eat your boat. Now, granted, in a natural environment, I don't think that thing's ever had a meal in its life. Oh, maybe like a seagull would land on it and be like, seagull.
I'm going to take this clam and crack it against this hard thing. And then it...
Exactly. You could definitely do something like that.
Coral golem.
That is a cool idea.
A giant urchin that can shoot its spines like harpoons.
That's easy money. That is easy money. I like that idea.
I like it too. I'm going to put it down, but because I want to have it created, not necessarily because we're doing it right now.
Razor sharp flying fish. That's 2 votes for the coral golem.
I like the school of razor sharp fish. I think that'd be pretty crazy.
Well, you could have like flying fish. The schools, when they're trying to get away from a predator, they flop out their big giant fins and soar for a little while in order to get away from predators. You just have them have like razor sharp fins or something if you wanted.
Yes, anything too jellyfish would be too tentacly.
Yes. Yeah, I would definitely say jellyfish is all about them tentacles.
Yeah, it's tentacle territory there.
Third for coral golem. Props to whoever brought that up.
All right. I also really like the razor flying fish swarm or school.
Rust monster coelacanth with a rusting barnacle growing mucus. I like that. I think that's an excellent idea.
All right, I'm going to write these down. We'll type these
Yeah,
up. Because...
I think we just need to type up a bunch of ideas at this point. Oh yeah, good point, Cardboard Fortress. The razorfish could ruin boat sails.
Oh yeah, that would be
if they jumped really far. I mean, if you were on deck and it's such a, that would be such like a crazy magic at moments, or at sea moment where you have a school of razorfish, everyone down, and some dude
gets cut up into little. He gets cut into shark bait.
Some poor passenger. Oh, really? What's a razorfish? Yeah, that would
like
be
a
awesome.
Barracuda biting you.
We got to boycott if there's no coral golem next time. The coral golem has gotten a ton of votes.
All right, let's make this happen.
Okay, all right. We have a very short period of time. Lightning fast.
So we're gonna go with a golem.
Okay.
To start, that's gonna be our base. So. It's going to have to be something. I think we could probably grab a stone golem. Or if we want it to be a little less crazy town, we could make it a clay golem and not have its weird form stuff. So let's grab a clay golem first. Okay. It's a little less pumpty. So it's a little more dealable.
Coral is not exactly stone. Yeah. Coral is porous and fairly brittle.
So we'll have to work out its immunities at some point. But let's say it's got acid absorption to start, is what a regular clay golem has. I'm not feeling the acid absorption because it basically it takes no damage and you gain hit points. So is there something that you could say it could do that would gain it hit points that is damage? Or does it just naturally soak in sea life? Like if a fish hits it, it'll just get stuck on it or get...
What if it's just regenerating as long as it's in seawater? You get it on land, it doesn't get regeneration anymore. But if it's in seawater, it's regenerating.
Okay. So let's say, what are we going to mash that with? So they're following the rules here. We're going to mash that with, let's say, do we just want to mash it with a troll?
Sure.
What are we missing from...
And I do like this suggestion. Coral Golem needs to deal damage when you touch it. Typically, coral has lots of sharp, pokey bits.
Yeah, I like that damage when attacked. I don't know of any monster that does that. Does a barbed devil do it?
Oh, D&D Beyond is so much faster than me.
Yeah, I know. I'm already at barbed devil.
No!
Barbed hide. At the start of each of its turns, the barbed devil deals 5 piercing damage to any creature grappling it. We could say any creature attacking it in melee.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I say steal it directly.
Directly?
I like the idea of just grappling. Well, you're not going to be hugging the thing, so there's no reason to take any damage from it.
Okay.
I mean, if you are hugging it or that close to it, then yes, it will be slicing you up.
Catching you, sucker.
There are tons of good ideas. I should have been a sea biologist to help more. Don't worry, we go everywhere with creatures. You will have your time to shine, I promise.
Yeah. So right now, major features, we've got regeneration, barbed hide, and I think we can take out immutable form. Now, even though I took clay golem, that was because I wanted a weaker golem. But let's look at what stone gives you. Okay. Because if stone's going to be different than the clay, I want to see what kind of distinctions we can look at it. All right.
I definitely like the idea of it being able to absorb lightning and discharge it.
All right. So stone golem has immutable form. So let's go with immutable form for this.
Okay.
And it's pretty much got the same immunities and condition immunities, so let's continue on with that as well.
Dan Pitt brings up an excellent point. I think something that could be incorporated in kind of the fluff for this thing, since it's brittle and it's kind of covered in living creatures and stuff like that. It give it a lower AC, but it's got regeneration, so it's kind of okay. You could knock a piece off and literally watch it grow back.
Well, that's another reason why I went with the clay golem, because the clay golem is just overall a weaker golem when it comes to golems compared to stone. Okay. Stone's tough. It's 17. Clay golem starts at a 14 and less armor, less armor class, and 40 less hit points than that. So,
okay,
40 fewer hit points. So, magic resistance. Pretty much all the golems have it. Immutable form. Those 2 golems have it.
Okay. We
got the barbed hide, and we got regeneration. Now we want to say, well, do magic weapons? Are their attacks magical? We have magic sea coral in the area, so it could be naturally the weapons of the creature are magical.
I am voting. It needs some form of hide in plain sight ability. This thing should be able to just lay down in a coral reef and just gone. I'm voting for its attacks would be magical, and its attacks. There's lots of votes for some form of poison or paralyzation or something like that. There is some reasoning behind that, just due to the kinds of things that are in coral reefs. Most of that stuff is pokey and pretty gnarly.
It's actually punching you with a sea urchin that just happens to hang out on it.
It's just a fistful of sea urchins. The fighter's like, no, I'm out. No, I'm leaving. I'm not fighting it. I'm out.
All right. So regeneration, barbed hide, coral camouflage. I want to take away the berserk, because that's really like a clay golem thing. And I would say the haste as well. Taking away the haste. So,
yeah, it doesn't need that.
Yeah, so the big deal is that it's got its powerful slam attacks. It's got its... So what are we saying? Poison? It's going to do poison, in effect?
Is the slam attack impact damage? Bludgeoning damage?
Bludgeoning damage, yeah.
It should be slashing damage, don't you think?
Well, it could be. I don't want to split the damage really, but it is pretty much going to be some of each. It's abrasion damage, really. But...
abrasion damage. It's like getting hit with a giant piece of sandpaper.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah. A bat wrapped in sandpaper.
A bat.
But you know, it can be sharp. So let's go with. I almost said sharp damage slashing.
It can be a shark.
Shark
arm.
Now, a clay golem has a special cool ability where if you fail a save, your hit point max is reduced by the amount of damage you take. So that's kind of like poison, because if you're reduced to the end, you're dead. So basically, if you're at max hit points and it pummels you down to 0, and you didn't take damage any other way, you just bleh.
Okay, cool.
So that's kind of like a poison effect, but not.
If you write the fluff as a poison effect, you're good.
So would you say that you're immune to this if you're immune to poison? Being poisoned?
Yes.
Okay.
Chat, you're welcome to weigh in on that. But my vote is if you're immune to poison, you're immune to that damage effect. Makes sense to me. Cardboard Fortress says it deals higher physical damage due to slashing surface. It deals damage automatically when hit with unarmed attacks or in grapples. Players have to make a reflex save or lose weapons when attacking. There's a lot of crazy stuff for it to do. James Leslie gave a vote for piercing damage. Oh, interesting idea. Dan Pitt said they reproduced by just like snapping off a piece. I just imagine the golem like wandering out into the water real slow and just breaking an arm off. And, you know, well, I used 2 hands there. I just lost one. So it would snap off an arm and then like stuff it into the rest of the coral bed and then wander off.
It's regrowing a reef and itself.
Exactly. Oh, maybe these are man-made. Maybe these were constructed by the Druidic Order of that island. And they're part of the caretaking project. They're like automated caretakers. They just wander around rebuilding reef areas.
They just break an arm off that'll eventually grow back and shove it into a certain area. I like this.
Now we got it. This is good.
I am very glad we did the coral golem right before we were done.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, just making a little note here that says basically if you're immune to poison, you're immune to this effect.
Yes, definitely. Axonar said reproducing golems. Yes, these golems reproduce. They're coral reefs. That was excellent. That was excellent. So does chat remember? Chat always remembers. Chat, do you guys remember whose idea the coral golem was? Because I think it was brilliant. Such a good idea.
Nanotech apocalypse in your future is what Cardboard Fortress says. What? They're just like replicators. That's all. The Druids made something they thought was going to help them preserve nature. And
isn't this how the story always goes? Like science fiction, everything. This is what the story always is.
And in dystopian futures, yes, there's always a good idea that went bad.
I think at the Stargate setting, it was actually a toy, but in all other settings, I'm pretty sure.
That's great.
It's always
a toy.
We did this for good. Yeah, in Stargate, it was this girl's toy when she was a kid. So. Cask. I can't. I'm not sure how to say your name. Like caulking. I'm not sure. He said so you should be able to kill them with altered pH levels. Next time we will mix the sea dragon with the kraken or the hippogriff with the hydra. The monster mashes are every single Thursday, and honestly, they just would not happen without you guys. So thank you everybody for coming tonight and hanging out and helping us get this done.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. I'm gonna put it down.
I'm gonna put it down. You're gonna write
Clam
everything
Hydra.
the king.
It's been immortalized.
Oh yeah. Real quick. You should put down some form of weakness to acid.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of baked into the regeneration. Acid damage would actually kill them if they're start at 0 hit points,
right?
And they've taken acid damage. Yeah. So because they're troll based off. That's the troll ability. So let's just change it from acid and fire to just acid.
Okay, I like this. Fire's probably not gonna do a lot to them. They're soaking wet.
And do they have to be in salt water to regenerate?
Yes. I like the idea of them having a really powerful regeneration, but it being limited to that necessary environment. I really see these things getting completely out of control. Like I see somewhere.
So we're going to ramp this up to 20 hit points a turn then, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. This thing is unbelievably tough when it's in the water.
Thanks for that, Cardboard Fortress. That's definitely true. Acid damage, with the pH issue that coral reefs are having, that makes total sense.
Oh, nobody can remember whose idea it was. It was Chat's idea. Good job, Chat. You guys are amazing. Yes. Thank you, everybody. I cast Purify Water on the water around it to stop its healing. I give you 100 XP for being a super awesome problem solver.
Yes.
Years now. Have fun leveling up. Like, seriously.
And I think challenge rating 9 might... it doesn't have Berserk and it doesn't have Haste. So we took a few things away. We added regeneration. We added the sharp coral body and the coral camouflage. So I think that's a good mix. So I think it can stay at 9 personally. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, that rounds out 2 hours amazingly. Thank you again. It's been really great with everybody here. A lot of fun on this Thursday evening. In general, we're going to be doing Sunday, Thursday, and Friday, but tomorrow we're not because there's going to be an RPG Crate game live, and you'll be able to check that out hopefully on both YouTube and Twitch, wherever you happen to reside. If we can get the technology to work for Ted. So let us know what you think in the comments below. While you're at it, you can like, share, and subscribe or follow. And until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.